Thank you. Well, I got started with this Appalachian mountain dulcimer in probably 1970 when I got my first instrument. I heard the recordings of Mimi and Richard Farina, and I gotta get one of these things. It's just such a great sound. And I just thought, wow, what a rootsy folk sound. This is an electric instrument, so it's got a real ambient sound. It's a little different than the rootsier sound. But when I found that real gutsy, I don't know, Appalachian sound with the drone, a lot of the drone, I thought, I gotta find one of those. I was already playing guitar. I knew I can probably play one of these things. So I found a Frank Profit dulcimer in a pawn shop in Norfolk, Virginia, and that was the beginning of my love affair. I mean, I had this instrument, which was a Frank Profit, and he was a great folk singer and instrument builder. He built banjos and dulcimers in his own very unique way with very thick cherry wood and kind of very narrow instead of real deep sides like this. They were really narrow, and they didn't have a lot of sound. I really liked the sound of them. They had a nice sustain to them, but they didn't have a lot of volume. But I thought, I need to figure out some way to build my own. I need to figure out some way. And now you couldn't, in 1970, 71, you couldn't just get on your phone and say, hey, Mountain Dulcimer, let me see if there's any courses around. You know, you couldn't do that. And it's like, you know, all I did, I was down in Washington, D.C. at the time, and all I did was be a pest of myself to like Jim Bumgardner, who was a great bluegrass instrument repairman down in D.C. area, and then Joe Wallow had a violin shop right in D.C., and I just asked questions, and I just asked and became kind of a pest. And eventually, so a couple of people helped me out, gave me some wood that was pretty much thickness to what I wanted, and it's just on the building end, it's a possibility box. I mean, where can it go? It's a folk instrument. It's not like a guitar or a violin where you have very fine things that you have to do to get one that everybody's going to accept. And so you start someplace. And I started with, well, what if I change the depth of the sides? And what if I hollow out the fingerboard? Something that a lot of dulcimer builders do these days. They cut channels down them. I drill holes underneath it. Do all kinds of things to change the sound. Change the species of wood. You know, there's all kinds of things to do. If I feel like it, I cut a big hole in the bottom, you know. That's the way I can get pickups in there. Even as I build, being much older and being much, you know, having many instruments made, I still make an instrument with that. I wonder what's going to happen with it, you know. And so it's a process more than it's a product. I was never really a great commercial builder in terms of knocking out a lot of instruments. I never really did a lot of, you know, factory level, you know, assembly line style production with modern woodworking tools. I use a coping saw and a scraper blade and, you know, hand plane, you know, egg beater drill, you know, a lot of times. I have an electric drill that I use somewhat, but a handheld electric drill. But I don't have a drill press, I don't have a table saw and all that. And I still, you know, all these years later, I still build like that because I'm just trying to see what happens with these things. Of course, the electric instrument changes things a lot, so you get a completely different realm out of the electric instrument. I have a humbucking magnetic pickup sort of straddling the fingerboard, and that gives it that nice ambient sound. And with the musical stuff that you have these days with on a laptop, it's amazing the kind of sounds you can get. So I'm going to do a little demonstration of some playing styles, just real basic stuff, just to get you going. Now, if we had more time, I could teach you, everybody here, to play some simple tunes just on one string. I'm just using a little sliding stick, a little plastic stick to slide down one string. You know, you could just Doesn't get much easier than that. It's a very welcoming instrument. And so it doesn't take much. And in the beginning, when you're just playing on one string, you can use your finger to play on that one string. I can add some chords to it, the more advanced playing stuff. And then in the old days, they used to have some dulcimers that they used to have a little violin bow to play. You know, a little, not as big as a violin bow, but a little bow. And I don't have any dulcimer bows, but I do have an electronic instrument here that electromagnetically drives a string, which is one of the kind of things that I like. It's called an Ebow, and it's made by a guy named Greg Heat. The Grateful Dead used them back around 1986 or so. And anyway, we'll do a little bit of the bowing. This can be sometimes. That's the Ebow, and then kind of experimenting around with, again, musical possibilities, thinking that it's a possibility box. What happens if you, like a lot of guitar players are doing these days, what happens if you, instead of picking with your right hand, why don't you do some picking and sort of hammering down and pulling off, just like you do a lot of times in dulcimer styles to make them smoother. You can play with just the left hand by hammering down a string and then pulling off. I figured, well, you could probably do something like. And here's a tune called the Firefly Trio that I do with a lot of tapping. that's pretty much the range, most of the range of playing styles. If I had more time, if we had a longer thing, I could show you more stuff, but that basically gives you an idea on some of the things I've messed around with and, you know, some of the basic playing styles. And now I'd like to do a couple of tunes for you here. The first one is called Will Ye Gang to Kelvingrove. It's a traditional Scottish thing. And then the last one I'll do is going to be Irish Lullaby No. 1. It's kind of an original tune that I wrote along the lines of some of the traditional Irish airs, the slow airs and stuff. So here's Will Ye Gang to Kelvingrove. Thank you very much. Thank you.